You've likely also seen that Trump has proceeded with tariffs directed at some of our most important allies. Many of his talking points center on the supposed unfairness of a trade plan that he himself negotiated under the US-Mexican-Canada Agreement. You can't make this up. Trump's strange obsession with Canada seems to be driving part of this. Here in Minnesota, we have about $22 billion trade with Canada. And alone in the 5th District, it's about $600 million in goods and services trade with Canada every single year. That makes up about 6,500 jobs that are linked to that trade in Canada alone. Trump has openly suggested that his intent to hobble Canada's economy and force them into becoming part of the United States. It should go without saying that this is absurd and unacceptable way to treat Americans. That they make everyday goods more expensive, they reduce purchasing power, and they disrupt our supply chains. Trump's tariffs will make everything more expensive. It means that it would make cereal more expensive because wheat would go up that we import from Canada. It would make housing more expensive because of lumber. It means our energy will become more expensive. It would become more expensive for us to buy vehicles. So no amount of him lying to the American people changes this truth. The EU and Canada's response makes it clear that the reckless trade policies have real consequences for working Americans. And we can't let that happen. And just like last week, the EPA took extraordinary steps to roll back environmental protections and climate policies. We know that this will lead to more deaths from asthma, heart attacks, and toxic exposure. It would eliminate climate policies that helped ensure the U.S.'s leadership in the transition to a green economy, and it will lead to more devastating storms across the country and the world. And it will only delay a transition to renewable energy that will happen with or without our leadership. And last week, Congress, with the Republican majority, voted to give Trump and his co-president Elon Musk even more power by passing the continued resolution to fund the government. Now, let's be clear. A government shutdown would be horrible for the Americans. But I could not, in good conscience, support a bill that would reduce congressional oversight, send more money for deportations, cut staff at the Social Security Administration, and eliminate programs for veterans. And I am disgusted that several Senate Democrats gave up our first point of leverage. So join me in thanking our senators, Amy Klobuchar and Tina Smith, who did the right thing and voted against this disastrous Republican CR. Over the weekend, Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act. This is the first time in our nation's history that this law has been used outside of war. We knew this was coming, which is why I introduced the Neighbors Not Enemies Act to repeal this outdated law, because I knew the risk it poses in the hands of someone like Donald Trump. This old law allows Trump to expel people from our country based on their nationality alone, not a crime they have committed, just by claiming that they have invaded the United States. We don't know the charges or evidence or even the identity against the 238 people that Trump wants to has deported over the weekend. But we do know that the judge ordered Trump not to proceed, yet he went ahead anyway. Trump is openly disobeying judicial orders. He is ignoring the law that Congress has passed and creating a constitutional crisis by attacking our Constitution. We know that this is just the beginning of Trump's plans on immigration. This administration detained and for a while disappeared Mahmoud Khalil, a lawful permanent resident, for participating in pro-Palestinian protests. No criminal charges have been brought forth. He's been a U.S. resident with legal rights in this country. We've also seen U.S. citizens and valid U.S. visa holders detained for questionable reasons. He's rolled back the legal status of thousands of people, including Ukrainian refugees who arrived here, documented, and who have been working here legally. It has been clear to many of us that Trump was not going to focus only on those with criminal records. He's coming after any and every immigrant he can. And that's why it is so important that all of us know our legal rights. When you take stock of everything that Trump has done over the last 2 months, it is clear what's happening. Trump is a wannabe dictator. He will continue to ignore our Constitution, our laws, and the checks and balances that have been the bedrock of our country for 250 years. Republicans in Congress are unwilling to challenge Trump. They have abandoned their oaths to protect the Constitution, and our society will reckon with this chapter in our history for generations. Judges are constantly targeted by the mega universe, with some of my colleagues already trying to impeach judges for the rulings that they have made. It is only a matter of time before their verbal attacks result in physical violence against judges like we've seen before. Across the world, countries are seeing the United States fall. They are seeing Trump trying to annex our ally, Canada, berate Zelensky in the Oval Office while he closes up to Putin. They are seeing us abandon foreign aid, which for a generation has widely been regarded as the most important diplomatic work the U.S. does. People are starving to death as we speak, while food rots in warehouses across this country for no reason other than Trump wants it.
Disgraceful.
This betrayal is not something we will recover from quickly, but we will do whatever we can. This is what the collapse of our constitutional democracy looks like. This moment in our history requires all of us to speak out and to show up. For all of you to keep posting on social media, to keep going on protests, to keep calling your members of Congress. Make sure your family and friends who are represented by Republicans are calling their elected officials. Make sure they are registering to vote. Submit comments on the proposed rule changes. Find an organization that's doing work that you can work and volunteer with. Speak out in every way you can, especially if you or the organization you work for are personally impacted. We cannot normalize what is happening. And I repeat that. We cannot